Baton Rouge. This hour brought to you by Spencer Callahan Injury Lawyers. LA 21-12681. Offices in Baton Rouge. Now, the Hunt Palmer Show.
Yes! I feel like I've been waiting for this my entire life.
You're listening to the Hunt Palmer Show on 104.5 ESPN Baton Rouge.
Jolly good fun. Jolly good.
Locking down the middle of the day.
America's favorite daytime fun show.
Live from the Mercedes-Benz of Baton Rouge studio. This is Hunt Palmer.
Welcome in. Hunt Palmer coming to you from the Mercedes-Benz of Baton Rouge studio downtown in the capital city on this Monday. It means we're brought to you by Gulf Coast Office Products. Hope your work week's off to a good start. For a lot of folks, last full work week of the year. Trying to put some bows on a few things. I'll tell you, I was walking around the office. It kind of feels like the end of the year around here. I think that's going to be the case here for another 2 weeks or so. But we got a lot to do over the next 2 hours. Got Jacob Beck and Cassie Spazzali back there on the ones and twos. LSU basketball gets beat up in Frisco on Saturday. Saints have a pretty impressive comeback, but fall just short at the end against Jaden Daniels and the Commanders. We've got a new Heisman Trophy winner. Mike Norvell's given $4.5 million back to Florida State. Plenty to talk about over the next 2 hours. So glad you're hanging out with us here on 104.5 ESPN Baton Rouge. We'll start things the way we start each and every day. It's with our Genesis opening drive.
It's time for Hunt's opening drive, presented by Genesis of Baton Rouge.
Well, we heard that LSU was going to be aggressive in the transfer portal. And we heard that there was a lot of money that had been set aside. And we heard that the philosophy of the football program was shifting more and more towards said portal. But we didn't have any results until the transfer portal opens. And when the transfer portal opened, there was kind of a mass exodus from LSU. You had upwards of 15 players jump into the transfer portal and head elsewhere. A lot of depth pieces, not necessarily frontline players, but a lot of scholarships became available when LSU opened that transfer portal. And over the last 72 hours, LSU has made good on that promise to be very active in the transfer portal. They have addressed positions of need with high-level players from across the country, and I've been impressed with what LSU has been able to do. I said back before this thing even cranked up that, hey, you're probably going to have some of the best players on your team come out of the transfer portal. And that may be the case. We will certainly find out. It all kind of got started with Bauer Sharp. We talked a little bit about that on Friday's show. He was the tight end from Oklahoma, spent 3 years at Southeastern Louisiana, went up to Oklahoma. He led a putrid Oklahoma passing offense in receptions on the season. Of course, LSU fans will remember him throwing that ill-timed and very, very misguided interception that he chucked up in the middle of the air for Sage Ryan to intercept a few weeks ago in Tiger Stadium. But he absolutely addresses the need of a big physical tight end that can help you in the run game. LSU had to have that to pair with Trey'Dez Green. You bring in J.D. LaFleur, and your tight end situation looks a little bit better. We knew that they had to go there. Speaking of the end, you need to go to the end of the defensive line as well and get some edge players. Kevin Peoples did a phenomenal job with Savion Jones and with Braden Swinson. Those two guys were really, really good all year. Braden Swinson was as good a pass rusher as LSU had this year. Savion Jones, while he did make some plays in the pass rush game, was actually really good against the run much of the year. And I think both of those guys improved their draft stock significantly over the last 4 months. But they're going to move on. And now you've got Deshaun Womack who moves on. So you look at LSU in the defensive front, and you're going, okay, they got Gabe Relaford, but what else do we have? There's Dylan Carpenter. He hadn't played very much. They got to address that need at edge rusher. They absolutely have done that in a big way. You go get Jamari Butler, who was a productive player for Nebraska this past year, had 3 sacks in the game against Ohio State, 5 tackles for loss. Really, really good player, a veteran who's got another year of college eligibility to his name. And then today they added on to that with Jack Pyburn, who was second on Florida's team in tackles. Both of these guys are 6'5". Both of these guys are north of 250 pounds. They're big. They're physical. They've shown the ability to rush the passer. Pyburn had 8 tackles in the game against LSU just a month ago. So those are 2 guys that you pair with Gabe Relaford, you pair with Dylan Carpenter, and you bring a couple guys in this class, and you've shored up your ability on the edges. I think there are probably still some more guys in the transfer portal that LSU would like to land. Will Helt is one of those who's looked around to a lot of different places. He certainly looked at Texas A&M, certainly has looked at Ole Miss. So we'll see what the Purdue defensive end transfer's future is. But LSU has addressed that with 2 places, Jamari Butler and Jack Pyburn. And then we knew they absolutely needed to go and get a wide receiver. They add Berrien Brown. I will tell you this on Berrien Brown. I'm a little bit hesitant on this one. Not because I don't think Berrien Brown is not a talented player. He's immensely talented. You run 5 kickoffs back for touchdowns in the Southeastern Conference, you have a ton of talent. LSU has run all of 2 back in the last 40 years in Tiger Stadium. Berrien Brown's got 5 to his name in 3 years. He's incredibly fast. He's got some good size, and he's been pretty productive. He was a freshman All-American, and Kentucky just couldn't throw the ball this year, so the numbers are not going to blow you away. I just worry a little bit with Berrien Brown that he's the exact same player as Chris Hilton and as Xavier Thomas. Those guys are speed guys. They haven't been uber productive in the passing game. They're kick returners. They have kind of the same type of skill set. I was looking for more of a technician, a possession receiver, because you've got the speed guy in Chris Hilton. You've got the playmaker in Xavier Thomas. I was looking for maybe a 6'4" guy that is a great route runner, kind of a little bit in the mold of CJ Daniels, quite frankly. But I'm not going to certainly turn Berrien Brown away. I think he's a really talented guy, and hopefully LSU can get more out of him than Kentucky could, because LSU's got one of the best passing offenses in the country, and Kentucky's is one of the worst. So it's a little puzzling to me that you would get the same skill set in Berrien Brown, but hey, he's a talented dude. You add him into the mix. Cornerback, something that LSU had to address. They just have not been good enough in the secondary over the last 2 seasons. There is a talent deficiency problem in the secondary for LSU. I have been to too many practices over the years where I have walked over to the LSU secondary unit and could point immediately to 4 or 5 guys that were going to play in the NFL immediately. I don't mean to just go straight to the most talented room, but I mean, you go back to 2010, 2011, you got Patrick Peterson, you got Morris Claiborne, you got Tyrann Mathieu, Brandon Taylor, Eric Reed, Ron Brooks, Harold Simon. These are pros. You go back to 2019, Derek Stingley, Christian Fulton, pros, guys that are making huge plays in the professional ranks. Look at Grant Delpit, pro. And they just don't have that over the last couple of years. It's just not there. And you're starting to move toward that, because I think that Jakeem Jackson is a pro. That's a guy that was a high 4-star recruit, one of the top 5 corners in the country when he came out. He played in almost every game as a true freshman. He was a starter in his 2nd season, and he got hurt 2 games in. He's got size. He's got projectability. He's a talented guy, and Corey Raymond identified him as a high school player he wanted to bring into the program at Florida. Did that. Now he brings him over to Baton Rouge, and Jakeem Jackson, I think, becomes one of your best corners immediately. We already know that DJ Pickett is coming in this class. We know that Aiden Anding is coming in this class. Ashton Stamps made some strides this past year. You're starting to look like LSU again in the secondary at DBU. You still got to go get some more guys in the secondary to continue to bolster that, because you've got to be able to cover and tackle in this day and age in football, and LSU just did not have the dudes over the last couple of years to do that at an elite level. And the last one I want to talk about here that LSU adds in the transfer portal was Michael Van Buren. This is really interesting, because I have said this, and I think some others have kind of echoed this as well. I thought it was going to be a weird spot for LSU to go in the transfer portal this year, because while there are a bajillion quarterbacks in the transfer portal every single year, they usually transfer to start, right? Usually don't transfer to sit. And LSU is not going to be able to go out there and get a Cam Ward or get a Dylan Gabriel to come in and play quarterback at LSU. You just weren't going to be able to get a bona fide starter to come in and sit behind Garrett Nussmeier. So you were hoping maybe to get a talented young player who was okay with sitting for a year with the not promise, but the situation presenting itself that he compete to be the starter at LSU for multiple years after this year is over. I did not think that in that spot LSU would be able to get an SEC starter, which is what they got in Michael Van Buren. Yes, Blake Shapen got hurt, and that's why Van Buren went in, but he started 9 games at Mississippi State. He threw for 300 yards twice, once at Georgia. I'm not saying that he's Jaden Daniels. I'm not saying that he's going to be a first-team All-American. I'm just saying you got a proven SEC starting quarterback with 3 years of eligibility left. with Garrett Nussmeier still sitting there, like that's a really good ad. And again, I don't know if he'll ever be the starting quarterback at LSU, but you needed to add a quarterback, and I thought that was going to be tough to do, and LSU managed to pull that off. That's a big, big deal for Brian Kelly, for Joe Sloan, and the football program to go get Michael Van Buren. So those are the additions thus far. You started with Bauer Sharp, you got Barry and Brown, you got Jamari Butler, you got Jack Pyburn, you got Michael Van Buren, and there will be more to come, obviously. I think one of the names to look at right now is Virginia Tech center Braylon Moore. That's a name that has been predicted to LSU here in the last couple of days, and that's a guy that I think would be a perfect fit at LSU, a 2-year starter at center for Virginia Tech in the ACC. You could plug him in, move DJ Chester over to a guard, and you start to set up that offensive line. That right now is my number one need for LSU's offensive line. I don't even really care what position they check off the list. I'll take a center. I'll take a left tackle. I'll take a right guard. Give me a proven veteran offensive lineman at really any spot, and LSU will take him because you don't have any spot on your offensive line right now that is settled. Your tackles and your guards are gone. Your center is probably going to need to move to guard. So, yeah, you've got some guys who were 4-stars, but you got to add proven talent to that spot at the offensive line, and I think they'll do that over the next 24 to 48 hours. LSU has done a really, really good job. It's amazing as we all kind of start to do this for the first time. This is LSU's first, real overhaul with the transfer portal. They're going to go heavy. I mean, I just rattled off 6 additions and then a potential 7th in Braylon Moore. You figure they're probably going to add 13 guys or so in the transfer portal. That's the biggest crop that they've brought in, save Brian Kelly's first year where you had to patchwork the entire roster. During his tenure in Baton Rouge, this will be the most starters they've brought in outside of that 1 year where you had to redo the entire roster. And I think they've done a really good job of that. There are still holes on this roster. There still needs to be talent upgrades at a significant number of places, but it's a really good start, and it's following through on a promise and a report that we had that LSU has some money. They're going to be aggressive, and I can tell you when you look at some of these guys, they are visiting Ole Miss. They are visiting Texas A&M. They are visiting Georgia and Oklahoma. They're visiting Arkansas. They're visiting different places, and LSU is doing the job to get them to sign with the Tigers. So it's been a really good start for Brian Kelly and the program. They got to continue to build that momentum over the next couple of days. There are still spots that they've got to shore up. So that's your Genesis opening drive here on this Monday. We'll step aside. When we come back, the Saints had a terrible first half, really good second half, and I thought a really positive result, even though they lost. I'll tell you about it coming up next.
The Hunt Palmer Show.
At Bayou Automotive, we believe in a sales process that puts you first. We want you to experience an easy purchase with clear pricing and great service. Let Bayou Ford and Bayou Chrysler Dodge Jeep Ram be your trusted partners in finding your perfect vehicle. The crew at Bayou Automotive is going to do right by you.
I've been doing business with Luba for 25 years. They're dependable, trustworthy. It's just the attention to detail with our clients.
Our folks have years and years of experience. They're highly trained professionals, but many companies have that asset. What I'd like to think makes Luba a bit different is that we use those talents in a way that truly is dedicated to serving the needs of the folks who depend on us.
Dylan Cruz here to tell you about Six Rings Baseball and Softball Camp. If you live on the North Shore and play ball, go to Six Rings Camps with former LSU assistant coach Dan Canaveri. His knowledge is second to none, and your child will improve and have fun doing it. Camps are held at Coquille Park and Six Rings Academy in Covington with 4 sessions over the summer. Full day and morning only sessions are available from ages 7 to 13. Go to sixringsbaseball.com or call 985-206-9096. Learn the game to love the game.
BRAC teamed up to reimagine your parks, and you imagined big. With your help, we went to work, creating 12 beautiful community parks across the parish. A family-sized water park, miles and miles of trails, and parks just for your dogs. There are more places to splash, to explore, to run wild, and even soar. You imagined, we delivered. Gold. Brack, your #1 park system in the nation.
Electricity is all around us, and our families depend on it. Every day is sparked by the power of a cold drink or a warm meal, a movie night, and a comforting light at the end of a dark hallway. From sunrise to sunset, playtime to bedtime, our team is ready to take care of your electrical needs. Even in the case of an after-hours emergency, the light in your life shines brighter with Mr. Electric.
At Atmos Energy, our Smart Choice solutions help customers save energy and emissions with rebates up to $500 off high-efficiency natural gas appliances, smart thermostats, and weatherization upgrades. Together, we're fueling our energy future.
You're listening to The Hunt Palmer Show, brought to you by Gulf Coast Office Products.
Monday show is brought to you by Gulf Coast Office Products, GCOPnet.com, GCOPnet.com. All your printing, scanning, copying needs. They got you covered at Gulf Coast Office Products. Statewide, got an incredible team over there. Trey Beal does a fantastic job, and they've got technicians that can come service your equipment. They've got enough equipment to get you extras or a new one in the case of a malfunction. If you don't know why you have the printer, scanner, copier that you do, you just figured that may be the cheapest one. Trey Beal and his team at Gulf Coast Office Products have clients in every vertical market you can think of, and they know the needs of different industries, whether you're in healthcare, law, education, like us, a media company here. He knows what you need. They've got us taken care of here at Guarantee, and they can get you taken care of as well. If you haven't given any thought to your printing, scanning, copying needs, Gulf Coast Office Products, happy to do that. Baton Rouge Business Report, a #1 office supplies distributor in the area. Well-deserved. Gulf Coast Office Products, GCOPnet.com. Watching the Saints game yesterday, what a wild game that was. Just, two different football games. Jake Haener gets the start. I had said last week I thought Rattler would get the start, but they started Haener. I'm not sure if that decision was made because they felt like it was the best way to win the game. I'm not sure if it was made because they gave Rattler his shot, and now we got to give Haener his shot. I'm not really sure why the decision was made to go to Jake Haener, but I can tell you this, it shouldn't happen again. Because Spencer Rattler's upside and potential and playmaking ability dwarf Jake Haener. And Haener's strength is said to be his decision-making, quick reactions, decisiveness, all that kind of stuff. None of that was on display. And I'm not here to suggest that a man's entire career goes down the toilet because of 30 minutes of football. But I'm here to tell you that Spencer Rattler is a better player and has a far brighter future, a far higher ceiling than Jake Haener. It's not even close. So he ought to play the rest of the way until Derek Carr's ready to go. That's not a hot take based on how the game went. But, I didn't see anything from Jake Haener in that first 30 minutes that would suggest that he deserves another shake at this, especially when you saw what Rattler did in the second half. Haener completed 4 passes in the first half. Rattler led 4 scoring drives in the second half. I know the Saints offense is a mash unit. The offensive line's gotten a little healthier, but the weapons are gone. Kamara goes out. It's a tough spot for any young quarterback to go into. It's a tough spot for Derek Carr to go into. But Rattler was far superior to Haener in every way. And I'm willing to deal with potentially a poor decision, to deal with a over-trusting a big arm, some of the mistakes that are going to come from a young quarterback, to have the upside and the playmaking ability. Haener just looked lost, quite frankly. And maybe Haener would be a better option if you were in a well-oiled machine of an offense. If you were plugging him in for an injured Jared Goff up in Detroit and you had that dominant offensive line and you had two great running backs and one of the best receivers in the league and everything was really set up, a great tight end, Laporta, then maybe Haener goes in there and it runs a little bit more efficiently. That's just not the case with what New Orleans has going on right now. So while this is probably a discussion as to who's the backup quarterback, which isn't really that big a deal, on the slight chance that you might have your next franchise quarterback, it's definitely Rattler and not Haener. Give him a shot. He needs to play. That first half was awful. It reminded me, and LSU fans in this market will remember, it reminded me of LSU's first half in the 2011 SEC Championship game. Now, the Saints were a little bit more productive than LSU was in that half. LSU didn't get a first down in that half. The Saints barely got a first down. And I realized that Haener had two balls that were dropped. I realized that Haener had one big play that was taken back from a penalty, and there were some things working against him. But Rattler came in, looked composed, looked poised, and let it rip, and did a really, really good job. And then the Saints defense cranked up the pass rush and really got after Jaden Daniels. We know Jaden here in this market, and we know that he is not prone to putting the ball in harm's way. But in that way, when he doesn't put the ball in harm's way, he will take some sacks. And the Saints were able to get back there and get after him for 8 sacks in the game. And I was encouraged by a lot of what I saw from the Saints up front. I thought Brian Brzee showed up and made a couple plays. I thought Chase Young looked really good. And I thought that the Saints in the second half played a great half of football. They held a Washington team to only 6 points. Now, caveat here, as again, I've tossed a couple of those in. You lost Terry McLaurin twice, and Jaden didn't hit him. I know that very well because I was in a fantasy football playoff game yesterday and had Terry McLaurin. And candidly, sorry, Saints fans, I was a little ticked because there were 2 60-plus yard touchdowns that came right off the board because Jaden misfired. One was a little bit long, and the other one was just off the fingertips of McLaurin. So I can't throw all the bouquets to the Saints defense, but it was good enough to keep the Saints in the game. And then, look, Spencer Rattler led you right down and hit Foster Moreau for the touchdown on the last play of the game. And I thought Darren Rizzi did exactly the right thing. Exactly the right thing. You're not playing for anything. And Washington's better than you. So why would you go to overtime, risk giving the ball right back to Jaden Daniels? Instead, you got 3 yards to go win the game. Pull a stunner of an upset. You're down 14-0 at the half. Climb all the way back. Yeah. I don't know if I love the play call, rolling it right, cutting the field down, but it didn't work. It doesn't mean it was the wrong thing to do. It was the right thing to do. And I got a text message in my 10-man group text after the game went final. The Saints fan said, perfect result. Rattler looked good. Defense showed some signs. And you didn't lose any draft position. So I think that's probably the way to go for it. This is something we have now discussed for a month, but I'll continue to bring it up. Like, I'm not going to tell you you're an idiot for pulling for your team to win football games. Like, that is a reasonable thing to do. But I also think it's reasonable to realize that moving up in the draft is a good thing for the Saints franchise. And maybe whether you had the 12th pick or the 11th pick doesn't matter. Maybe it does. And wouldn't you rather just err on the good side? Wouldn't you rather just take the chance out of it and just do move up? I mean, I could bring you the most famous example in Saints history that one spot cost you Patrick Mahomes. That's the most drastic example of what I'm talking about here. But that point still remains. The 10th pick is better than the 12th pick. The 9th pick is better than the 10th pick. So if you're a Saints fan right now, losses are not terrible, especially when Kendre Miller shows some flashes, when Spencer Rattler shows some flashes, especially when Brian Brzee shows some flashes. Like, when you have young players that are put out there and start to take some strides, that's a real positive, even if the actual result of the game is a negative. There's some LSU fans that are glad that Jaden gets another win, moves to 9 wins, inches closer to the playoffs. I'm not really going to talk about it from that angle because that's not what anybody really wants to hear about. This is a Saints segment, a Saints market. But from a Saints perspective, I think that's a good result. You played tough against one of the better teams in the NFC. Some of your young guys stepped up. Your coach did the right thing. And you just come up short. But, hey, you've got the ability to move up in the draft. And while you've got 5 wins, and there are some teams that have significantly fewer than that, and you're certainly not going to pick first or second in this draft, if you move into that top 10, I think that's a good thing. The draft becomes the most important aspect of this organization. And so while you can sit there in the fourth quarter and enjoy the heck out of the Saints fighting and scrapping and clawing and showing something from a rookie quarterback, when you look back at it and you peel it to 5,000 feet, you realize, okay, this team, this iteration of the Saints is not really going anywhere. The draft and the player that you get for potentially 5 seasons is more impactful than this 3 hours in the dome. You just got to get it right. So this was always going to be one of the tougher games on the schedule. I think there are a couple more that the Saints very well could win. I don't believe one of those is coming up on Monday in Green Bay. I checked the high, by the way. It's like 26 on Monday. The sun will be long gone down when those two teams kick it off. So it'll be real chilly up on the frozen tundra coming up on Monday. But I think you can absolutely beat the Raiders. At the Bucs, going to be difficult. They're playing good football right now. But I don't think it's the worst thing in the world that the Saints lost this game. I thought there were some real positives to take from the Saints. And, you know, I think the one thing that you could point to and say, hey, they really needed to win because of this, if you really believe in Darren Rizzi as the next head coach of the Saints, I'm a little skeptical of that myself, but if you believe he's the guy, he needs to win as many games as possible. And every time you lose one, it feels like it becomes less likely that he's the next coach. But I do think he's warranted an interview at this point because I think he's done a really good job. You're talking about piloting this team to wins over Atlanta and Cleveland. You played a tough game against a good Rams team. You go up to New York and do enough to win that game against an awful team, but on the road, and then you come home against Washington, who is a quality football team, and you darn near stole it at the end of the game. So the Saints will play the Packers coming up on Monday Night Football, 7:15 on Monday on ESPN. We'll talk about that as the week progresses. If you're looking for our Saints content, you can always find it on YouTube, Hunt on Saints. Cassie and Jesse do a great job of cutting those segments down to little 10-minute segments that you can digest pretty easily, and they're on audio form wherever you find your podcasts, Hunt on Saints. So appreciate y'all for subscribing there and checking all of that out. Let's take a time out when we come back. LSU basketball played SMU on Saturday. My thoughts on the loss up in Frisco coming up next.
The Hunt Palmer Show.
Genesis of Baton Rouge, genesisofbatonrouge.com is the website. When you think Genesis of Baton Rouge, you should think luxury. When you think luxury vehicle, there may be some other brands that may pop into your mind first because they've been around a little bit longer. But Genesis deserves a spot at that table for sure. Go on by and see them on Airline Highway right there at PQ across from Women's Hospital. It's a fantastic facility, first class, and the people there are a joy to work with. Their brand ambassadors are so helpful. They'll get you behind the wheel of any of those line of vehicles, and you'll see just how sleek, stylish, comfortable the drive is. You'll see how great that the vehicles look. And they'll tell you about some of the unbelievable offers that they've got, like 10-year, 100,000-mile warranty on every new BMW, on every new Genesis purchase. They got valet maintenance for 3 years complimentary. Fantastic stuff over there at Genesis of Baton Rouge. Check them out online, genesisofbatonrouge.com.
At Bayou Automotive, we believe in a sales process that puts you first. We want you to experience an easy purchase with clear pricing and great service. Let Bayou Ford and Bayou Chrysler Dodge Jeep Ram be your trusted partners in finding your perfect vehicle. The crew at Bayou Automotive is going to do right by you.
Hey, it's Matt Moscona. For years, you've heard me tell you about Insurance Network of Louisiana, helping you find better coverage for less money. But it's not just for your home and auto. They also offer commercial property. So, retail stores, professional offices like doctors, dentists, attorneys, clothing boutiques. Insurance Network of Louisiana can find you better coverage for less money. They service the entire state of Louisiana, and they're local. So call today at 293-0450 or lainsurance.net.
Jerry and Benny Payne began Central Plumbing Company out of their driveway in Tanglewood subdivision. 50 years later and 4 generations down the road, we continue to serve Baton Rouge and the surrounding areas for all of their plumbing needs. Residential, commercial, industrial, or hospitality, Central Plumbing is here 24/7, 365.
We want to thank our customers, family, and friends for 50 years of success.
And looking forward to 50 more.
Gulf Coast Office Products is a nationally recognized Savin office equipment dealer based right here in Louisiana. Over 100 employees strong, Gulf Coast has the boots on the ground to support all vertical markets from education, engineering, legal, and finance. With the latest in office technology from desktop to production segment units, Gulf Coast and Savin have the perfect fit for you. Call 225-756-2644. That's 756-2644 for Gulf Coast Office Products.
I've been doing business with Luba for 25 years. They're dependable, trustworthy. It's just the attention to detail with our clients.
Our folks have years and years of experience. They're highly trained professionals. But many companies have that asset. What I'd like to think makes Luba a bit different is that we use those talents in a way that truly is dedicated to serving the needs of the folks who depend on us.
Gulf Coast Bank and Trust is giving our customers the power to bank anywhere, anytime during this challenging event. And we're right there with you. Our mobile banking app is a smart...
This is the Hunt Palmer Show, brought to you by Gulf Coast Office Products.
Good first half for LSU basketball on Saturday in Frisco. Tigers came out in the first half against SMU and played solid in the first half. They led by 6 after only turning the ball over 4 times in the first half. They shot 45%, got to the free throw line a little bit, and they played good defense. They held SMU to 33% shooting from the floor, and I thought really did a good job of controlling the pace of the game early. It was really up-tempo, and SMU wanted to slow it down, so they went zone. And I still think that LSU, in the second half of the first half, so the last 10 minutes of the first half, did a pretty good job against the zone of getting quality looks, and they didn't turn the ball over much. The second half was a freaking disaster. It was absolutely atrocious in the second half. Just terrible, careless turnovers, time and time again, 13 of them in the second half. They didn't shoot it well at all in the second half, and SMU completely took control of the basketball game, and the majority of that was due to LSU's turnovers. There was one in the second half. They were trying to execute just a simple dribble handoff at the top of the key, and they just let an SMU defender shoot right down the middle of it and run it out for a dunk. Like, just lazy stuff. And they just never snapped out of it. It was really difficult to sit there and watch. SMU played harder, they played smarter, and they were relentless against LSU, who just kind of wilted in the second half. You look at the second half box alone, LSU 13 turnovers, 10 of 25 shooting, 2 of 8 from three-point range. And even with all of that poor play by LSU, they still had a chance to come back and take control of the game. They got all the way back into it with 3 minutes and 15 seconds to go. They trailed by 5, and Jai Bailey got a wide open look at a 3 from the left corner. That would have cut it to 2 with 3 minutes to go. He missed that. Then later on, with 42 seconds to play in the game, LSU was down by 4, and Damian Collins got fouled on an over the back, a really, really foolish foul by the SMU center that sent Collins to the line for a 1-and-1, down 4 with 30 seconds to go, and he missed the front end. And at the end, SMU made 6 free throws over the last 30 seconds and stretched the lead to 10. It really wasn't that bad. That was a larger margin than the game honestly indicated at that point. LSU had an opportunity to go beat this SMU team. It's a good team, not a great team by any stretch, and they didn't play well enough to win it. That's just the bottom line here. They just did not play well enough on the road to overcome that. LSU is going to have some trouble offensively when Victorious Miller and Cam Carter from the 2-guard position combined to go 4 of 15 from the floor with 7 turnovers, and that's what you got. And more you're seeing the identity of this team when they play good basketball teams. When Cam Carter doesn't play well, LSU has issues. He is the engine of the offense. He is the guy that stretches defenses, that can make tough shots, and he's a handful. And when he's off, which he was on Saturday, they struggle to know who to turn to next. I thought Sears did an admirable job. He ends up with 21 points and 4 assists in the game. He did turn the ball over 3 times, but he counted that with 4 steals. I thought he played a pretty good game, but he's not enough to shoulder the entire load. And when Cam Carter goes 3 for 11 from the floor, it's just going to be tough for LSU. They really pared down the rotations in this game. Sears played 34 minutes. Jai Bailey played 39 minutes. Cam Carter, 36 minutes. Damian Collins, 30 minutes. And Corey Chest, 31 minutes. They only used 3 players off the bench. Victorious Miller, 14. Curtis Givens, 6 minutes. And then Robert Miller played 10 minutes in the game. You did not see Derek Fountain. You did not see Mike Williams. Those guys just don't see a lot of action at this point. Noah Boyd is not ready to play. Of course, Jalen Reed is out for the year. So they kind of showed what they're going to be from a rotation standpoint, but you just didn't get good enough play from your backcourt. And when you look up and Cam Carter's got 4 turnovers, and Jordan Sears has 3 turnovers, that's too many. Damian Collins is turning the ball over too much as well. I think that can get cleaned up a little bit as he plays more. It's just not a guy that's played a lot of college basketball, and he was hurt earlier in the season as well. He's now been inserted to the starting lineup. He goes from being what was probably like a 9 to 11 minute guy to a guy that you're asking to play 30 minutes, and that's just going to ramp up his usage rate, and it's going to ramp up some of the bad things that he does with some of the good things that he does. So there was some good in this game, I thought. I thought that Corey Chest, once again, was outstanding on the backboard. He had 11 rebounds in the game. He's been LSU's best rebounder to this point. I thought LSU did a pretty good job of creating turnovers. SMU really does a good job of taking care of the ball. I wrote about this for LouisianaSports.net. They have not turned the ball over more than 13 times in a game all season. They kind of lived right around 10, and LSU did turn them over 17 times. So it wasn't like LSU got whitewashed and they turned the ball over a ton, and SMU didn't turn it over at all. It was almost what and what there. But what I noticed is that SMU outshot LSU from a volume perspective because LSU had a few more turnovers than the Mustangs. LSU shot 54 field goals. SMU shot 60, so that's a 6-shot disparity, plus LSU 18 free throws and SMU 23. So 6 field goals and 5 free throws, that's a big disparity to try to overcome. And when you don't shoot the ball very well, which LSU didn't, just 4 of 15 from the 3 for 27%, it hurts you. If you're an SMU person that's covering this, you probably point to the fact that SMU was only 14 of 23. That's 61% from the free throw line. So you suggest that maybe it could have been worse. But I would point you to the turnovers and say, look, that's part of it as well with LSU. They just didn't do a good enough job of taking care of the ball. So you kind of know what LSU's identity is at this point. It's a basketball team that leans heavily on its guard play, that needs to do a better job of taking care of the basketball. And then when Cam Carter doesn't score, they can have some issues scoring, and they certainly did, only posting 64 in this game. SMU scores 74 with being put on the free throw line a good bit late, so you pretty much held them around 70. That's not terrible, but you got to score more than 64 as well, and that's because you didn't get enough shots up offensively because you turned the ball over too many times. I took a look at the net earlier today, and I wrote a quick story about it over at LouisianaSports.net. Every Monday I do that, kind of updating where LSU stands as far as the net rankings go. LSU tumbles down to number 64 in the net. Again, that's not a huge deal at this point. There is so much quality coming on LSU's schedule from a resume perspective, that where they stand in the net right now is not super significant. SMU is number 40 in the net, so right now that neutral site game, since it's a top 50 opponent, is a quadrant 1 game. These last 3, and Beck, you've talked about this a little bit, are against truly 3 of the worst teams in the nation. There are 364 teams in Division I. Mississippi Valley State is 364. They are dead last in the net. Stetson is 355, so there are only 10 teams worse than them. And then UNO is 335, so there are only 30 teams worse than UNO as far as the net goes. So you're going to have 3 quad 4 games coming up here in the non-conference to try to get better. You got 2 weeks to clean yourself up, and then you got to go to SEC play and see what you can do, because it's going to be a bear. But I would give LSU, assuming they win these 3 games, a loss in any of these 3 games is going to be an albatross on LSU. They need to handle these awful teams that are coming up. But they get a passing grade for the non-conference. You had basically a failing grade last year in the non-conference. You didn't do that. You haven't taken any bad losses. Your 2 losses are to neutral site, top 40 teams. That's not going to be crippling from a resume perspective. You wish you would get those wins, but you've got a couple banked. Florida State's a nice win. I think UCF's is a decent win as well. So at Kansas State on the road is a quality win. It's a passing grade in the non-conference, but really needed to get this one against SMU to feel strong about it, and you couldn't quite get it done. Just didn't play well enough to win the basketball game. Beck, you sent me a text message in the second half of this game that was not super glowing in your comments about the Tigers. That was just a dreadful 20 minutes of basketball.
Yeah, man. The first half, and honestly, like they played well in the first half, but they could have even. I think they could have been leading even. Well, I can't remember if they could have been leading even more in that first half. Honestly, I can't remember what the score was of the half. It was 33-27.
Yeah, I mean, I've got the scoring right here. In the first half, LSU was controlling the action in the first half for sure. They built a 12-5 lead. Sorry, that was SMU that built the 12-5 lead. There it is. Okay, they had a 9-point lead when Sears hit a jump shot with 5:41 to go. They led 26-17 over the last 5 minutes, and that was 8 again with a minute and a half to go, and then you allowed Cross to hit a jumper there with a minute to go to cut it. But you led by almost 10 points late in the first half and just didn't close that half the way you needed to, and then it just all got away in the second half.
Yeah, so the turnovers obviously in the second half was just was the backbreaker.
It's baffling to me because Carter and Sears are veterans. They've played a ton of basketball. For them to turn it over like that is just disappointing.
Yeah, I don't know. Yeah, it's hard to really. And Damian Collins also had 5 turnovers.
I think he's going to clean that up.
He will. Yeah, I agree with you. But one of the big things too for that game, and one that I worry about. LSU got beat by 10 on the boards.
Yep.
SMU had 13 offensive rebounds, and that is going to be a problem, especially without Jalen Reed on this team. But you let a guy, Matt Cross for SMU, is 6'7". He had 16 rebounds.
And not exactly an elite athlete.
No,
he looked
not
like
exactly.
a dude from the rec with the headbands going. He was really accessorized. He had the headbands going.
He
had the arm sleeve rocking. Like he had a lot working for him.
Yeah.
But, elite athleticism was not one of them, and he still grabbed 16.
He grabbed 16 rebounds, and then also I was interested in the way that LSU decided to match up with their 7'2" guys.
Yeah, we talked about that Friday.
Yeah, and I was like, okay, you have Noah Boyd on this team. Like he can guard this guy. Like obviously you don't want him playing like 15 or 20 minutes a game. But get it like they didn't really have an answer for him. He had 12 points. He only had 12 points, but still, like that's. Like every time he got the ball, he had 2 assists as well. Every time they tried to double him, he made a couple of good passes towards the end of the game as well. So I didn't really understand why you wouldn't at least try to throw Noah Boyd out there and give him a few minutes on that guy. But other than that, man, yeah, the rebounding was a big concern too. Other than the turnovers,
it's a team that has some issues.
Yeah,
I've now watched enough SEC basketball, and I think part of the reason that I've talked so much about the SEC over the last 3 weeks is because I've watched every play of LSU basketball, obviously, this year, and I've watched a lot of teams in the league. And LSU is one of the 4 least talented teams in the SEC. That to be clear, that could put you in the NCAA tournament. Like this is as good as the SEC's ever been. So I'm not trying to like pour ice water on the entire LSU basketball program based on one half of basketball against SMU in December. No, I'm being reasonable about what I've seen in my opinion of it. You don't have like surefire NBA guys on your roster. The rest of the league, most of the rest of the league does. And you don't even have like elite level. Like I don't know if Josh Hubbard or Wade Taylor, Hubbard's at Mississippi State, Wade Taylor's at A&M. I don't know if those guys are going to play in the NBA. They're both like 5'10", 5'11", but they're crazy good college players. And I just don't even know if LSU has that. LSU's just solid. Cam Carter's solid. Jordan Sears is solid. Corey Chest is solid. Victorious Miller's is got a lot of potential. Damian Collins has some real physical gifts. But like you don't have surefire pros. And Trendon Watford, Cam Thomas, you had guys that were going to be pros, and you don't necessarily have that on this team. So they've got to play clean basketball to win games, and at times they've got to play out of their skis to win some of these games. And then you see when they're just okay, or you have an issue here or there, which they did in the second half against SMU, and they just couldn't overcome it against a team that's probably going to be middle of the pack in the ACC. So, again, I'm still encouraged by what they've done over the course of a month and a half, but I'm just nervous about what's coming in January because it's a freight train. I mean, it is an absolute freight train, and it's just intimidating. If you were telling me that this LSU team was going to go play the Johnny Jones SEC, like I'd think they were in good shape. I think I'd pick them to win 10 or 11 games. This isn't that. So it's a different world that you're walking into. And if you're not on your game, you're going to get dusted. So it's just they had been really good for a month and a little bit of a step back over the last 20 minutes. But they've got 2 weeks now with no school and no distraction, no real issues. They just can go out there and work to improve. You're not going to learn a lot but by what they do against Stetson tomorrow. We'll talk about the game, but you're not going to learn a ton from it. They've just got to continue to improve and then get ready to go in conference play in 2 weeks. So Tigers lose at 74-64 to SMU. They fall to 8-2 on the season. Huge announcement that I think is a wave of the future coming from Tallahassee earlier today. If you haven't heard this story, we'll finish out hour number 1 with it coming up next.
The Hunt Palmer Show.
One Bath and Closets. OneBathAndClosets.com is the website. David Vaughn and his team, 30 years redesigning and remodeling bathrooms and closets. If you're thinking bathroom renovation, like that's really time intensive, that's really expensive. What about some of the easier things that they do at One Bath and Closets? One of them's tub to shower conversions. If you don't use your tub, maybe you got one of those big jacuzzi tubs that were popular in the 80s and 90s and you never use it, but that's a lot of space. Take it out. Put in a gorgeous glass walk-in shower. If you never sit down and take a bath, well then why don't you put a shower there? Put something you use in the bathroom. David Duvall and his team do tub-to-shower conversions all the time, and he's happy to help you with yours. It changes the functionality of your bathroom, changes the aesthetic of your bathroom, and it can be done relatively quickly because it's a smaller project. David Duvall's happy to help you with all that. Go to onebathandclosets.com and request that free consultation today. It's free to have the conversation with David and his team. Get that done sooner rather than later. It's One Bath and Closets. Onebathandclosets.com.
When you can't rely on technology, you can rely on Mountain Cold Refreshment.
Dave's back on.
Coors Light. Choose chill.
It's no secret. The best oysters in Baton Rouge are at Jolie Pearl Oyster Bar. Enjoy mouth-watering South Louisiana flavor and oysters from all over the country. And don't forget our nightly drink specials. Jolie Pearl Oyster Bar, located in downtown Baton Rouge.
At Bayou Automotive, we believe in a sales process that puts you first. We want you to experience an easy purchase with clear pricing and great service. Let Bayou Ford and Bayou Chrysler Dodge Jeep Ram be your trusted partners in finding your perfect vehicle. The crew at Bayou Automotive is going to do right by you.
Looking for the ultimate game day experience? Come to the Queen Casino in Baton Rouge. Wall-to-wall TVs mean you'll see every touchdown in HD. Place your bets and feel the thrill of every play with our DraftKings Sportsbook. The Queen Casino, where every moment is a win.
Dylan Cruz here to tell you about Six Rings Baseball and Softball Camp. If you live on the North Shore and play ball, go to Six Rings Camps with former LSU assistant coach Dan Canaveri. His knowledge is second to none, and your child will improve and have fun doing it. Camps were held at Coquille Park and Six Rings Academy in Covington with 4 sessions over the summer. Full day and morning only sessions are available from ages 7 to 13. Go to sixringsbaseball.com or call 985-206-9096. Learn the game to love the game.
Breck teamed up to reimagine your parks, and you imagined big. With your help, we went to work, creating 12 beautiful community parks across the parish. A family-sized water park, miles and miles of trails, and parks just for your dogs. There are more places to splash, to explore, to run wild, and even soar. You imagined, we delivered. Gold. Breck, your #1 park system in the nation.
Electricity is all around us, and our families depend on it. Every day is sparked by the power of a cold drink or a warm meal, a movie night, and a comforting light at the end of a dark hallway. From sunrise to sunset, playtime to bedtime, our team is ready to take care of your electrical needs. Even in the case of an after-hours emergency, the light in your life shines brighter with Mr. Electric.
You're listening to The Hunt Palmer Show, brought to you by Gulf Coast Office Products.
Beck, did you see this story about Mike Norvell today?
Yes.
So, Ross Dellinger reporting that Mike Norvell is contributing $4.5 million of his salary this year to the university in a restructured contract. And that's not because he feels bad for a 2-10 season. This is just, I think, the wave of the future. We saw Brian Kelly give back with $1 million, and now you're talking about Mike Norvell giving $4.5 million. And we know that they can't give that money directly to the players, but it's in that vein because there's a finite amount of money everywhere. And some schools have a ton and some schools don't have very much. But you've got what you've got. And we know that if you want to have players, then you have to give them money. That's just the way this goes. So that money that had been earmarked to go to new locker rooms, to go to the new facility for nutrition, to go to whatever the case may be, that money now has to go to the players. Well, somebody's got to continue to pay for that. And if you're paying a coach $10 million a year, or you just bought out a coach for $41 million, or just bought out a defensive coordinator for $6 million, or whatever, like, you keep knocking on that same door for all this money, and all of a sudden, it may not show back up. So the coaches, I think, in my opinion, as we get ready for revenue sharing and we understand how much these players are going to command, I think some coaches are going to take a haircut intentionally to benefit their football team. Not all of them.
I mean, let's
half.
Yeah, and let's just say, though, for this situation, I would think that the way the season played out may have had something to do with him deciding to put this much into it.
I mean, that's a big number, $4.5 million. And I'm not suggesting that every coach is going to give half their salary back to go pay cornerbacks and left tackles. But I think there is a reasonable discussion to be had if your goal is to win at the highest level. Then I think there is a discussion on the front end about what you need to be making in salary. Because if you need to allot another $1 million every year to the roster, instead of making 9.6, you may need to take 8.5. You can still live at 8.5. You can still make the car note, and I think you'll be fine as far as, the plot of land that you live on. but you got to go pay players. And if you take all the boosters' money into your pocket and the players don't get any, you're going to have some lonely practices or a bunch of guys out there that aren't very good. So I think that coaches at the highest level are going to start taking less upfront in salary. I thought about this in my head like a year ago, but I just was like, no one's ever going to do that. Like, no one's ever going to just take $1 million out of their paycheck. But you saw Brian Kelly do it last week, and you saw Mike Norvell do a heck of a lot more than that now. And these inflated salaries that kept going and well, how high is this going to go? Remember, it was crazy that Saban got $1 million in Baton Rouge. He made 11 or 12 going out the door in Tuscaloosa. Eventually, you got to pare that down to go pay the players. Mike Norvell did so, and it was, I thought, interesting news. We'll step aside. We got a lot to do. Denton Day coming up in 35 minutes talking National College Football. Don't go anywhere. It's a Monday edition of the Hunt Palmer Show presented by Gulf Coast Office Products.
The Hunt Palmer Show.
LaBerge Baton Rouge. You got to make LaBerge your game day headquarters this season. You can watch all the games on their huge televisions, tackle the area's best game day food and drinks, all your friends, or you can go by yourself because they got some really cool individual seating up there at the sportsbook at ESPN Bet as well. Get in on all the basketball and football action this winter with Penn Play and ESPN Bet. Penn's online sportsbook that is now live in Louisiana. You got to score big this season at LaBerge Baton Rouge. It's just a great place to go hang out and watch all those games. It's bowl season. NFL is in crunch time. Monday Night Football coming up this evening. Lots to do and lots to see. You can wager on all those games there inside LaBerge, Baton Rouge, and ESPN Bet. However, you want to play. They're right there inside the casino. You walk in, you go right past the sportsbook. Come on in. It's a fantastic place to watch all the games. You got a gambling problem? Call 1-800-522-4700 if you need help.
At Bayou Automotive, we believe in a sales process that puts you first. We want you to experience an easy purchase with clear pricing and great service. Let Bayou Ford and Bayou Chrysler Dodge Jeep Ram be your trusted partners in finding your perfect vehicle. The crew at Bayou Automotive is going to do right by you.
Hey, it's Matt Moscona. For years, you've heard me tell you about Insurance Network of Louisiana, helping you find better coverage for less money. But it's not just for your home and auto. They also offer commercial property. So, retail stores, professional offices like doctors, dentists, attorneys, clothing boutiques. Insurance Network of Louisiana can find you better coverage for less money. They service the entire state of Louisiana, and they're local. So call today at 293-0450 or lainsurance.net.
Jerry and Benny Payne began Central Plumbing Company out of their driveway in Tanglewood subdivision. 50 years later and 4 generations down the road, we continue to serve Baton Rouge and the surrounding areas for all of their plumbing needs. Residential, commercial, industrial, or hospitality, Central Plumbing is here 24/7, 365.
We want to thank our customers, family, and friends for 50 years of success.
And looking forward to 50 more.
Gulf Coast Office Products is a nationally recognized Savin office equipment dealer based right here in Louisiana. Over 100 employees strong, Gulf Coast has the boots on the ground to support all vertical markets from education, engineering, legal, and finance. With the latest in office technology from desktop to production segment units, Gulf Coast and Savin have the perfect fit for you. Call 225-756-2644. That's 756-2644 for Gulf Coast Office Products.
I've been doing business with Luba for 25 years. They're dependable, trustworthy. It's just the attention to detail with our clients.
Our folks have years and years of experience. They're highly trained professionals, but many companies have that asset. What I'd like to think makes Luba a bit different is that we use those talents in a way that truly is dedicated to serving the needs of the folks who depend on us.
Dylan Cruz here to tell you about Six Rings Baseball and Softball Camp. If you live on the North Shore and play ball, go to Six Rings Camps with former LSU assistant coach Dan Canaveri. His knowledge is second to none, and your child will improve and have fun doing it. Camps were held at Coquille Park and Six Rings Academy in Covington with 4 sessions over the summer. Full day and morning only sessions are available from ages 7 to 13. Go to Six Rings Baseball.
This is SportsCenter.
I'm Christine Lisi. ESPN's Adam Schefter reports Lions running back David Montgomery is out indefinitely with a sprained MCL. Meantime, starting defensive tackle Aline McNeil torn ACL out for the season. Plus, Detroit starting quarterback Carlton Davis III will undergo surgery on a fractured jaw. He'll be sidelined indefinitely. After further testing today, Chiefs quarterback Patrick Mahomes, diagnosed with a high ankle sprain, will be evaluated throughout the week to see if he has a chance to play against the Texans Saturday. Then there's the Christmas Day game against the Steelers. KC should consider sitting Mahomes, says ESPN NFL analyst Herm Edwards.
He can't protect himself. That's a concern because you need him down the stretch to be healthy. And he's a tough guy, a competitor. He'll want to play, but you got to save him for the playoffs because the way this thing looks right now, guys, if the weather's clean, these teams over on the AFC side, there ain't going to be many 14-10 games.
Herman Carlin versus Joe. NBA 76ers center Joel Embiid, out at least a week with a sinus fracture, was injured Friday night in just his 6th game of this season.
Time with family, laughs with friends, and cash back? Discover's got you covered on the last one. That's because Discover doubles all the cash back you've earned on your credit card at the end of your first year with Cash Back Match. See terms at discover.com/creditcard.
Now, the Hunt Palmer Show.
Yes! I feel like I've been waiting for this my entire life.
You're listening to the Hunt Palmer Show on 104.5 ESPN Baton Rouge.
Jolly good fun. Jolly good.
Locking down the middle of the day.
America's favorite daytime fun show.
Live from the Mercedes-Benz of Baton Rouge studio. This is Hunt Palmer.
Hour 2, Monday edition of the Hunt Palmer Show, presented by Gulf Coast Office Products. Denton Day, 25 minutes or so from right now, talking college football. Got a new Heisman Trophy winner. Talked to Denton about that and a lot more with our guy from SiriusXM's College Football Overtime. He's with us every single Monday, so look forward to that conversation. I've been frantically refreshing Twitter. I don't think LSU has landed any transfers in the last 45 seconds, but you never really know. They've been coming pretty fast and furious over the last 3 days, and there are some names I think to watch for that I want to kind of discuss here, and if they do end up in Baton Rouge, we'll put that in cement. But one of them that I think makes a ton of sense for LSU is Nick Anderson. Nick Anderson is from Katy, Texas. He was a 4-star recruit. He committed initially to Oregon, ended up signing with Oklahoma. And he is now transferring from Oklahoma. He was out most of the season with an injury, but he fits the mold of a guy that LSU might really, really need. And when I talk about the receiving room that LSU has right now, you're talking about a group that has a lot of guys that are similar in their skill sets. Chris Hilton, Xavier Thomas, and Berrien Brown are all speedsters. They're kick returners. They're fast. Have they been wildly productive in college? I wouldn't suggest that. Brown, the most productive of the three. But they kind of have similar skill sets. You do have Kyle Parker, who's more of a technician. You do have Aaron Anderson, who's a little bit more of a water bug and a little bit more laterally quick than those guys. But I think you need a big physical body that can go up and be a possession-style receiver for you. And that, I think, is what Anderson brings a little bit. He's 6'3.5". He's got a bigger frame, bigger body than those guys. And so that's a guy that I think LSU really would do well to land. I know that A&M is very much in the mix here, and I know that LSU is very much in the mix here. And for me, this is another one of those examples when I know that you're in a war with another team. If you can come out on top, that means LSU really is playing for keeps. And that's the only way we can know, is if the results come. And yeah, I think there are some other schools that were in on Berrien Brown. Absolutely. Yeah, I've seen the list of quote-unquote demands that reportedly Jack Pyburn had for Florida. And I know that he now has committed to LSU. So it stands to reason that LSU is doing a really good job with NIL here. But this is another situation with Nick Anderson where another heavy hitter is very much involved. And we'll see if LSU can get that to the finish line. If they can add Nick Anderson, and I can look at him and Kyle Parker and Chris Hilton and Xavier Thomas and Aaron Anderson and Barry Brown, all of a sudden you're good at wide receiver. That was a big concern of mine as of 2 weeks ago. Like, who the heck do they have to catch the football? C.J. Daniels is gone. Shelton Sampson's moved out of there. Like, they just don't have a lot of numbers, and you kind of factor in the fact that Chris Hilton has generally been hurt, and then you look at Kyle Parker, who is hurt. It's like, man, they gotta figure something out. And Nick Anderson, I think, would really make that offense look very talented from a skill position perspective. You tell me that you've got an offense around Garrett Nussmeier that's got Trey'Dez Green and Bauer Sharp at tight end. You move back to running back, and you've got what we think is an all-SEC tight back in Caden Durham. Caleb Jackson is still here. You bring in Harlan Berry and JT Lindsey. Then you go to the outside, and you can tell me that you've got Barry and Brown and Nick Anderson to add into the talented guys that you had remaining. Like, that's an offense that I can expect to score some points should they go up front and add one or two offensive linemen and then have this group that Brad Davis has recruited and is developing to grow up a little bit. Like, that looks like a pretty solid offense on paper. So I'm looking at Nick Anderson here over the next 24 hours, and we'll see if LSU can potentially get him in the boat. Safety is another spot that LSU is not finished with. They've got to add in the secondary. The only guy that they've brought in the secondary thus far is Jakeem Jackson. He'll play a corner. They need help in the secondary. Sage Ryan has jumped into the transfer portal. The name that continues to surface on the Twitter streets is Tawfiq Bayard. He is going to visit Baton Rouge this week. That's a guy who is being courted by a number of different universities. Colorado is in the mix here. And LSU has gotten a visit from him. He's a safety. He's 6'1". He's about 200 pounds. Had a really productive first year at South Florida. He was not one of these highly heralded recruits. Like Barry and Brown and Nick Anderson were high-level four-star recruits. Jakeem Jackson was a high four-star recruit. This is kind of the other side of that coin where Tawfiq Bayard was a 3-star. I mean, I'm looking at his on-3 ranking. He was 1,447th. In the on-3 rankings. He was the number 147 safety, and that's how you end up at South Florida. But he goes in there, he plays, and he was productive. And LSU needs just about any help they can get at safety at this point. You're going to watch some young players play in this bowl game at safety. Deshaun Spears very likely will play a lot of snaps in this bowl game, and I would project him to be in the starting lineup next year. But realistically, you don't have anything set in stone at safety. So I think Tawfiq Bayard would be a quality add there from a size perspective and a productivity perspective. That's a guy that I have my eye on here over the next couple of days as well. Then another one is the name that I mentioned at the top of the show, but I'll bring back in here as we kind of go through this wish list for LSU. And I think that LSU's got to add on the offensive line. I feel like that what they've got currently is not enough in terms of numbers and in terms of talent. You've got to bring in proven guys, and Braylon Moore makes a ton of sense. I know that Shea over on 3, Shea Dixon has put his RPM pick on LSU to land Braylon Moore. Steve Wiltfong has done the same thing. That's usually a pretty good sign for LSU when those two guys put their predictions in. Moore is a 2-year starter at Virginia Tech and would help you in the middle of the offensive line where you could move DJ Chester maybe to his more comfortable position of guard. I think that makes a ton of sense. So these are the guys that you're looking for. I mentioned at the top of the show, like, I think LSU's going to add 13, 14 guys from the transfer portal in this class. There has clearly been a philosophical shift in LSU's program with understanding how you can field a championship caliber team. And Brian Kelly said this in his press conference last week, like, we can't do this playing 4 freshmen and 3 sophomores at a given time. Like, you've got to go get veteran, old players to come in and plug gaps for you. And they've started that process in a very big way. And I think that they'll continue that over the next couple of days. They're continuing to bring guys in on visits, and those have been pretty powerful visits over this point in time. I'm not sure where Braylon Moore is looking at this point, but I know that a lot of folks over at On 3 believe that LSU is the team to beat there, so that would be a very, very big get for the Tigers. So I think for me, the next 3 names that I'm looking for LSU are Nick Anderson, Tawfiq Bayard, and Braylon Moore to jump in this class. And I'm feeling better right now than I did 3 weeks ago about LSU's chances in 2025. I'll be pretty candid with you. When LSU lost that game to Alabama, I looked at the roster, looked at what was going to be walking out the door, and looked at the schedule for next year that includes at Alabama, and at Ole Miss, and at Clemson, and at Oklahoma. And I'm looking at this going, I mean, they're not going to be a contender next year either. So you're talking about going into year 5 without a team that's a playoff team for Brian Kelly. Like, that would be a tough pill to swallow. I'm not telling you they're a playoff team right now. I think you're a long way away from that. I'm telling you, you're a lot better than you were 3 days ago. And I went over all the transfers they brought in to this point at the top of the show. You can go back and listen to that on demand wherever you find your sound. And now we're starting to look at some more names that they could add, and they're being really aggressive in getting folks to campus and getting those visits taken care of. And I think they're doing a pretty good job of plugging some holes with some veteran guys. And I think that continues over the next 72 hours or so. So if anything happens, we will certainly jump all over it here on 104.5 ESPN Baton Rouge. And you can always read about this stuff at LouisianaSports.net. It's completely free. Every time LSU's gotten a commitment, we've posted that up there on the site. We've got basketball stories, Saints stories, Pro Football Focus from the Saints yesterday. LSU baseball got a commit yesterday. That's up on the site. So if you're an LSU fan, you're a Saints fan, you're an SEC football fan, and you want some free news, LouisianaSports.net, always a fantastic place to go check all of that out. Our Monday shows are brought to you by Gulf Coast Office Products. Denton Day is coming up in about 20 minutes talking National College Football. Don't go anywhere. It's the Hunt Palmer Show.
The Hunt Palmer Show.
Genesis of Baton Rouge. Every car on the lot is online at genesisofbatonrouge.com. You can start your shopping process right there online, genesisofbatonrouge.com. Check out their fantastic line of Genesis vehicles. And you honestly never have to set foot on the dealership lot if you don't want to. They can do everything remotely for you. They can do digital delivery. They can do e-contracts. And if you'd like to test drive, which, why wouldn't you? One of their brand ambassadors will come to you. You never have to leave the office or home. They'll drive right to you. You can get behind the wheel of that car, take it for a quick test drive, and they'll bring you home, bring you back to the office, and take that car back on in. And if you want that one, they'll deliver it to you digitally there. It's Genesis of Baton Rouge. You can find them online at genesisofbatonrouge.com. Every new purchase comes with a 10-year, 100,000-mile warranty at Genesis of Baton Rouge.
The Windsor Senior Living Community in Mandeville, Louisiana is a beautiful, vibrant apartment community geared towards seniors. They are nestled right in the heart of Mandeville, where seniors live a more carefree lifestyle in spacious apartments with the peace of mind that comes from having a little extra help. Call the Windsor at 985-624-8040 to schedule a lunch and tour. Come see how the Windsor can be your passport to peace of mind.
Electricity is all around us, and our families depend on it. Every day is sparked by the power of a cold drink or a warm meal, a movie night, and a comforting light at the end of a dark hallway. From sunrise to sunset, playtime to bedtime, our team is ready to take care of your electrical needs. Even in the case of an after-hours emergency, the light in your life shines brighter with Mr. Electric.
Hey, it's Matt Moscona. For years, you've heard me tell you about Insurance Network of Louisiana, helping you find better coverage for less money. But it's not just for your home and auto. They also offer commercial property. So, retail stores, professional offices like doctors, dentists, attorneys, clothing boutiques. Insurance Network of Louisiana can find you better coverage for less money. They service the entire state of Louisiana, and they're local. So call today at 293-0450 or lainsurance.net.
Jerry and Benny Payne began Central Plumbing Company out of their driveway in Tanglewood subdivision. 50 years later and 4 generations down the road, we continue to serve Baton Rouge and the surrounding areas for all of their plumbing needs. Residential, commercial, industrial, or hospitality, Central Plumbing is here 24/7, 365.
We want to thank our customers, family, and friends for 50 years of success.
And looking forward to 50 more.
Gulf Coast Office Products is a nationally recognized Savin office equipment dealer based right here in Louisiana. Over 100 employees strong, Gulf Coast has the boots on the ground to support all vertical markets from education, engineering, legal, and finance. With the latest in office technology from desktop to production segment units, Gulf Coast and Savin have the perfect fit for you. Call 225-756-2644. That's 756-2644 for Gulf Coast Office Products.
I've been doing business with Luba for 25 years. They're dependable, trustworthy. It's just the attention to detail with our clients.
Our folks have years and years of experience. They're highly trained professionals. But many companies have that asset. What I'd like to think makes Luba a bit different is that we use those talents in a way that truly is dedicated.
Palmer Show, brought to you by Gulf Coast Office Products.
Something just popped up on my Instagram feed as I was scrolling through in the break. I had forgotten about this. So you remember when in the Georgia-Florida game, Georgia went down and scored the opening touchdown and the entire team ran into the end zone and got the celebration penalty because Mark Richt told them to? Everyone remembers that because it was ridiculous. I mean, Sturdivant, the offensive lineman's doing this just crazy dance in the end zone, and they got the flag. Do you remember what happened the next year?
No.
I didn't either. I had forgotten about it, and it just popped up on my Instagram. Florida was crushing them the next year. They were up 30-something, and they had the ball late. And Urban Meyer called his timeouts with under a minute to go to extend the game.
Wow, I forgot about that.
I did not remember that either. I love that. I just think
good stuff.
I love when teams really don't like each other. That makes me very happy. And I think Mark Richt's like one of the nicest guys. And he just wanted his team fired up, I guess. So I wanted to spend a little bit of time here talking some NFL stuff, just some general storylines from the week. This might be completely wrong. Like, I might be completely wrong in this instance, but it feels like injuries are becoming far more prevalent in the NFL than in the past. Like, what is going on with the Lions right now is just nuts. Paul Hembekides from ESPN said they've started like 36 guys on defense. Like, that doesn't even seem possible. And you look at what they've got on notable injuries. Aiden Hutchinson, and they had 4 defensive linemen get hurt for a significant amount of time. Like, that's your whole defensive line. They've had 4 different linebackers, Alex Anzalone, Malcolm Rodriguez, Derek Barnes, Jalen Reeves-Maben, all injured. Carlton Davis, Emmanuel Mosley, Ennis Rakestraw, all 3 corners have been hurt. And they've had safety injured as well. And they're still 12-2. Even with all these ridiculous injuries. And it's starting to buckle a little bit because they're not getting stops in the way that they did early. They were great on defense early in the season, but they've just lost almost everyone. And Aaron Glenn's like trying to hold this thing together with duct tape. And like, I just can't imagine the angst that is going on for a Detroit Lions fan who quite literally, no matter the age of said Lions fan, has never seen a really good Lions team. Like, when was the last time the Lions were really, really good? And you've got what most considered to be the best team in football like a month ago, before all these injuries started happening. And you feel like it's slipping away all due to injuries. And I'm looking at the Saints and their massive run of injuries, and it's like basically 70% of the NFL is how healthy are you? Can you field a team? And at a certain point, you've got to build depth on your roster. But there becomes a threshold where like no one could reasonably establish enough depth to offset the rash of injuries, and the Lions have blown past that. And the Saints did that on offense for a time there where you didn't have your quarterback, your top 2 offensive pass catchers, your gadget guy, and your entire interior offensive line. Like, you can't sustain that. I just rattled off. I mean, how many injuries did Schefter list here? 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12. 12 injuries. That's more than the lineup. There's only 11 guys out there on the field. So that's wild. It's also wild to me that Patrick Mahomes' ankles somehow, some way know when it's December and they just start to malfunction. It wouldn't be December if Mahomes didn't have some sort of an ankle injury. And, of course, he did suffer it again. And I'm going to put this out on the record. I'm going to go ahead and get out in front of this. I don't think the Chiefs are even going to make the Super Bowl. Their record is phenomenal. It would be foolish to wager significantly against Andy Reid and Patrick Mahomes in the playoffs. But as I look at this, like, I think I could name 4 teams that I like better than the Chiefs. And that's wild to say, considering who's still taking snaps for them and who is still under center for them, even if he's a little bit hobbled, which he is every year at this point. But they're getting by on the skin of their teeth, and I just don't know if that's sustainable over a 4-week run in January into February. You need to impose your will on some teams, and I just don't feel like this Chiefs team does it like Chiefs teams in the past. They've morphed their identity where they were this high-flying, fun-and-gun, Tyreek Hill, Mahomes, up and down the field. You know, that was what they were, and they obviously ditched Tyreek Hill, and they've become more of a defensive-oriented team that just relies on Mahomes to make enough plays to win. And that's hard to argue with that formula considering their record at this point. But I just feel like you play with fire that many times in the playoffs against the best teams in football. I just don't know that it's gonna fly, and I don't know that it's gonna fly for them moving forward. So you have a thought on that hot take there that the Chiefs are not the juggernaut that they have been over the last 5-6 years back? I mean, I'm thinking like I just don't. Even though their record says they're that good, I just can't get on board with the fact that they play a 1-score game every week.
Yeah, I saw a stat that they are one of 4 teams, I think, in the NFL that hasn't scored more than 30 points in a game, and the other teams are all the Giants, Jets, like really, really terrible teams, and yet the Chiefs are 12-1. It just doesn't add up. I mean, I don't know. It's really crazy.
And the other piece to this, like, I don't even know what I can add to this discussion because it's such a cut and dried issue, but I do not understand why players week after week after week are dropping the ball before they go in the end zone. Like, this is not a nuanced discussion that we've got to like peel back the layers on. It's just a stupid thing to do. But like, my question, I guess, would be to these players that continue to do this. Like, how cool do you think it looks to drop the ball a millisecond into the end zone? Like, how much of a hit would you take in terms of style points if you just took 3 steps into the end zone before you dropped the ball?
Yeah.
I just don't get it.
Doesn't make any sense.
It's an epidemic. Like, it was unbelievably, like, no one could believe it when Deshaun Jackson did it the first time. It's like, I can't believe he just dropped the ball. And then it just keeps happening. This is years that we've gone on, and folks just have to get rid of the ball immediately. And some, folks may have potentially had Jonathan Stewart on the fantasy squad.
Jonathan Stewart. Wow, what a callback there, huh?
Is that who it was?
Jonathan Taylor?
Jonathan Stewart was
a running back for the Panthers for a while there.
Yeah, he was with D'Angelo Williams.
Yeah.
My bad. Jonathan Taylor.
Yes.
Dropped the ball. Some folks had a fantasy impact there of 8 points.
Yeah, that was me. I had him on my team.
Yep. No 6 for the touchdown and -2 for the drop. But like, it's just wild. That,
it is.
Like, and like the one famous instance of it happening for LSU was Tyron did it when he ran the punt back against Georgia in the SC championship game in 2011, and he tossed the ball beforehand. They didn't catch it and go back and look at it, but he did toss the ball before he went in. That was even more so like a showboat deal because he tossed it to the ref. This is just the whole thing where we're dropping the ball. Again, there's just not a lot of nuanced conversation that you can have to like break it down. It just blows my brain that this happens week after week after week, but certainly did in the game on Sunday. And Bills look real good. Do we feel like Joe Brady will be a head football coach next year?
No way. I can't see it. I mean, if it happens, I'll be shocked. But at the end of the day,
he's one of those young, hot. I mean, what's different than him and Mike McDaniel? What's different than him and McVay when he was hired? What's different than him? I mean, who else is a young hot shot? I mean, Matt LaFleur was a young offensive guy.
Yeah.
Like, it feels like that's kind of who they hire.
Yeah. I just wonder, it's hard to really diagnose how good of a coach Joe Brady really is because he's been really good with the Bills, who have Josh Allen.
Yes.
He was really good with LSU when they had Joe Burrow. He was terrible with the Panthers when they didn't have any good players. So it's hard to really discern whether or not he's really a good coach.
Should the Saints hire him?
No.
Okay. I think I'm going to do a station survey for LouisianaSports.net coming up now that the Saints are officially out of the playoff mix. Say who do you think the next Saints head coach will be? Curious if we get any Darren Rizzi answers.
Interesting, yeah.
I had a friend go to bat for him in my group text yesterday. Another friend said we of course cannot hire the Riz, but I think that's a point of contention. Joe Brady's a name that you've seen popped out. Like I think the Saints are going to have to go down the wish list like 2 or 3 because I just think there are better spots than New Orleans. Like Chicago to me is a much better spot. You've got a young quarterback on a rookie deal, a ton of cap space. They stink this year, and they've been a dysfunctional organization for like decades, but it feels like a better landing spot than New Orleans at this point. Like who else is coming open this year?
Probably the Panthers.
The Jets. I don't know if the Panthers, they can't come open again.
I mean, they fire him every year.
They can't do that again. The Jets, that one is interesting because they do have some real talent on that roster, but you probably have to deal with Aaron Rodgers, and then like, what do you do? That's a complicated situation. I don't know, but I just don't feel like the Saints are going to be able to take the cream of the crop. Maybe you got to slide down that list a little bit, and I'm curious how many rungs down that ladder you have to walk before you get to Joe Brady, who's obviously ridden Josh Allen to some pretty high highs this year for the Bills. I think the Bills are a legitimate Super Bowl. I mean, I think they may be the favorite to win the Super Bowl at this point, the way they're playing, the way that Mahomes is banged up, the way that the Lions are banged up, and the way that the Chiefs have to kind of limp by. But just some ski-scatting and bebopping around the NFL there for some storylines from Sunday. College football storylines in abundance here with the transfer portal, the Heisman Trophy, college football playoff, all that. We'll talk about it next with our guy Denton Day from SiriusXM College Football Overtime. Plus, he's a Commanders guy, so we'll talk to him about yesterday's result for Jaden and the Commanders in New Orleans. That's all next on The Hunt Palmer Show.
The Hunt Palmer Show.
Audio Video Security Solutions, AVSSLA.com is that website. How about a golf simulator? Christmas time coming. Maybe a little bit late to snag that for Christmas, but holiday season's here. If you'd like to get a golf simulator installed at your home and you're thinking, I don't even know where to start with that, I can tell you where to start. Right here, Audio Video Security Solutions. Mitchell Fisher and his team are happy to help you with the installation of that golf simulator. If you've got some room in your house, they have done it here, and they can do it again. His cell phone number is 225-439-7920. Again, 225-439-7920. Love being able to give you Mitchell Fisher's personal cell phone number. He's the owner of the company Audio Video Security Solutions, and he'll be your point person to get that project started. You're not going to be way down the line and call. You're not getting some call center in Atlanta. Nope. Mitchell, right here in Baton Rouge, and he can help you with all your audio, all your video, all your security as well. But if you want to have some fun, put that golf simulator in the house, they can do it. Right now, Cassie's scrolling through on YouTube on their page, and you can see a picture of the golf simulator that they have installed, and they can help you with that process as well. It gets dark real early now if you want to hit some balls after work. Simulator is your best option. You can do that with our friends at Audio Video Security Solutions. Check them out online, avssla.com, avssla.com.
There it is, the extra mile, on the border of expected and extraordinary for those willing to go further, like vans customized for work or play, with safety and tech to keep you connected, supported by a 5-star sales, service, and finance team, and backed by the 1-star you know. So go the extra mile. It's never crowded, because so few have what it takes to go there. Mercedes-Benz Vans.
Dylan Cruz here to tell you about Six Rings Baseball and Softball Camp. If you live on the North Shore and play ball, go to Six Rings Camps with former LSU assistant coach Dan Canaveri. His knowledge is second to none, and your child will improve and have fun doing it. Camps are held at Coquille Park and Six Rings Academy in Covington with 4 sessions over the summer. Full day and morning only sessions are available from ages 7 to 13. Go to sixringsbaseball.com or call 985-206-9096. Learn the game to love the game.
Breck teamed up to reimagine your parks, and you imagined big. With your help, we went to work, creating 12 beautiful community parks across the parish. A family-sized water park, miles and miles of trails, and parks just for your dogs. There are more places to splash, to explore, to run wild, and even soar. You imagined, we delivered. Gold. Breck, your #1 park system in the nation.
Electricity is all around us, and our families depend on it. Every day is sparked by the power of a cold drink or a warm meal, a movie night, and a comforting light at the end of a dark hallway. From sunrise to sunset, playtime to bedtime, our team is ready to take care of your electrical needs. Even in the case of an after-hours emergency, the light in your life shines brighter with Mr. Electric.
Hey, it's Matt Moscona. For years, you've heard me tell you about Insurance Network of Louisiana, helping you find better coverage for less money. But it's not just for your home and auto. They also offer commercial property. So, retail stores, professional offices like doctors, dentists, attorneys, clothing boutiques. Insurance Network of Louisiana can find you better coverage for less money. They service the entire state of Louisiana, and they're local.
You're listening to The Hunt Palmer Show, brought to you by Gulf Coast Office Products.
LSU just keeps pulling them in the transfer portal. This time, Virginia Tech transfer cornerback Mansour Delane has committed to LSU, according to Hayes Fawcett of On3. 6 foot, 185-pound cornerback, 146 tackles, 16 pass breakups, 6 picks, and 4 forced fumbles. A 3-year starter for the Hokies. Apparently, this guy's a big-time talent there from Blacksburg. There was some thought that he may be a high NFL draft pick. I'm not sure if he's planning to test those waters or not, but he's committed to LSU, and Tigers have really, really drastically improved the roster over the course of the last 72 hours, and I don't expect him to slow down anytime soon. So we'll talk a little bit more about that as we move forward. Let's bring in our guy, Denton Day, SiriusXM's College Football Overtime, joining us on the Jim's Firearms Hotline. Denton, how we doing?
Hunt, what's going on, man? How are you?
We're portaling. That's really all we're doing down here in Baton Rouge. There's a lot of portaling that's going on, and LSU is being real aggressive at the moment, and it's been pretty good. I want to talk some NFL with you. Where was your confidence level in the Washington Commanders as the Saints came out for a 2-point conversion there with no time on the clock?
Not great. Not great at all, especially compared to the confidence in the first half. I mean, we were doing a live remote at a bar in Maryland, and the whole bar was on edge as we gathered around a television to watch that final play, and we were elated when Spencer Rattler was just off the mark. It was a near historic collapse for Washington, and being on air, you don't want to cuss up a storm, but it was close. It was close. If that would have completed, it wouldn't have been good.
What are your thoughts on the second half of that game? Because, like you said, the first half just complete control by the Commanders, and then they kind of couldn't get anything going offensively in the second half.
Well, I don't know how you guys feel about this in Louisiana, but we did have quite a bit of fun over some pictures of Jake Haener, like some official team pictures of Jake Haener, and it was very zesty in the first half, and it was like a real football player playing quarterback in the second half. But this is the second time in as many games that Washington's offense has had a really good first half, at least on the scoreboard, and then really struggled in the second half. They did the same thing to the Tennessee Titans. The only difference is they put up 28 points early, and that's a hard lead to blow. So I'm a little concerned about it. I thought Jaden played well. It was a weird game, certainly, but there are not a lot of guys for him to throw to outside of Terry McLaurin. There's not a lot of separations, which is why you saw him get sacked 8 times yesterday.
And McLaurin got open twice, and I know it was a Terry McLaurin fantasy football owner who was really needing some points late in the afternoon, and Jaden misfired twice there on what would have been walk-in touchdowns, which hurt. Either one of those converts, and you're talking about a completely different ballgame where Washington controls it and wins by 2 scores, but he didn't connect there. I'm curious your thoughts. Where is the with the fan base there in the nation's capital? We got a chance to get in the playoffs and make a run this year, and then where is it where this is just the beginning of what should be a really good decade, hopefully, of Washington football? Where's the balance there?
It is. I would say right now it is a balance. Now, this fan base has been tortured for 30 years.
Yes.
So there are some people that maybe are not comfortable in this spot. Like there's some PTSD from the RG3 year in 2012 where people are too worried about things going wrong in the playoffs. But I think for most fans that have their head on their shoulders, it's a nice balance. I mean, if you can get into the postseason and you can kind of get that first experience under your belt, because I know, in the NFL, it is very much experience in the postseason. Even Patrick Mahomes didn't run the table his first year in the league. He came pretty close, but he didn't run the table his first year in the league. So I think getting that experience and then realizing that with Jaden, with Terry, with guys like Marshawn Lattimore, who was a non-factor in the best way possible yesterday, like you have your core group of guys to move forward with.
All right, let's talk some college football. I mentioned in the first hour with the news last week that Brian Kelly was donating $1 million to LSU's athletic program, and then you saw today Mike Norvell give $4.5 million of his salary back to Florida State. Do you feel like with this NIL and the revenue sharing that's coming here in 4 months that coaches are going to start taking haircuts on their salary so that there's enough money to go around to pay these players right now?
Yeah, definitely. And I am curious, Brian Kelly donating it. I wonder if he gets the tax write-off there versus Mike Norvell giving it back. But definitely, I mean, some of these salaries for coaches, we're getting to the point where it was, I would say, borderline astronomical. I mean, we're going to get to the point soon, if nothing changed, about guys getting $15 million per year. And that's just not sustainable if you have to end up paying everybody else. And, guys on Twitter like Jay Billis are going to say there's just not enough money. And he's making a joke out of it. But at a certain point, there is a finite level to this money. And once you start delegating this to certain areas and under the assumption that you're going to have to, figure out some sort of Title IX way to do that, so you're not just giving every single penny to the football program, like there is a finite number that you can start handing out to these coaches. So I think it's smart that these coaches are getting on this early, and I think it's going to be a much more regular routine thing. Now, I will say I was a little surprised that Norvell offered $4 million. That seems like a lot, but I think this is something you're going to see coaches do much more frequently.
Let's talk about the transfer portal and where it falls on the calendar here, because LSU is not playing for anything in the Texas Bowl, so nobody in this little bubble cares. But Penn State's in the playoff, and their backup quarterback helps the team, and he's out of there before they play in a playoff game against SMU coming up next week. What is the national perspective on some of these teams that are in the playoff and they're having the players bail weeks before the game?
It's incredibly idiotic from a management standpoint. I feel terrible for Bo. I think he's in a tough spot. I thought James Franklin actually came out there. He kind of ripped guys a new one, and he was right. The players are put in a very tough position, and I don't understand how with the adaptation of the 12-team playoff, you knew this was going to overlap. Like it didn't take a rocket scientist to figure this out. When you're building your calendar, you realize these two things are happening at the same time. I don't know how there isn't some sort of waiver that can be signed that said, I'm going to enter the transfer portal, I'm going to play at a new school, but I'm also going to finish out this season if my team is in the college football playoff. I feel like there should be some sort of way where that can be able to work itself out, and then you don't have these sorts of scenarios, because the worst thing that you can happen is, let's just say hypothetically, I don't want this to happen, but if Drew Aller goes down with something, maybe he rolls his ankle the wrong way, you're not going to your third string quarterback, and that's tough. And then you're robbing Bo Prevola of an opportunity to have played in the college football playoff as well, which is also tough. So I don't love the way this is designed. I think there needs to be some sort of litigation, if you will, to allow guys to still finish the season out while also making it clear that they're going to enter the transfer portal and to seek their other options out.
What do you think about the transfer portal overall? I mean, you're talking about Marshall, like saying their whole team's leaving. I mean, what is your take on this day and age of college football?
I mean, I love that it gives athletes the ability to get a better future for themselves. I hate that you have a team like Marshall, and I guess they're probably the first one this has happened to legitimately in a non-COVID year, but they're certainly not going to be the last where they now don't get to play a bowl game because they lost 29 dudes in a week. I know sometimes we think of it, especially at bigger schools, right? Like if you're a Power 4 school, you likely have 100-some-odd guys on the roster. You don't want to lose 29 dudes in a week, but you might be able to handle it. Some of these other schools that are D1, they don't have 150 to 120 dudes on a roster, so you lose 29 guys. That's like a fourth of your team, sometimes a third of your team completely out. So I don't love the way that this is currently being designed. I don't love the way that the transfer portal is where it is now, but I also get it because you are still operating under the idea that they're student athletes. You have to base this around school calendars. We kind of know that maybe not everybody is as focused academically. Like, I don't know that you're checking majors before transferring to schools, or at least everybody is. They're going to where they're getting some money. They're going to where they want to play football. But I think the way that this is designed, as they are still student athletes, you're kind of in a tough spot because you can't fix that.
Do you think we're going to be able to transfer as many times you want, wherever you want, in perpetuity, or do you think there are going to be guardrails that eventually come back?
I mean, I hope there's guardrails that comes back. I saw a meme today about this Bear Alexander guy who has a Georgia tattoo, a USC profile picture, and he just transferred to Penn State. Like, buddy, that's too many times. I mean, that's his third team, and I think as many years. He might have stayed a year and a half at one school, so maybe he's played 40 years, and he's now been on 3 different teams. Like, I don't understand where the benefit is in that. Like, I love the idea of getting to move if you are not getting play time. Like, for example, with Bo Prevola, he knows that Drew Aller's coming back. He wants to go play. I love that he has the opportunity to move, but if you're moving 3 times, I mean, what's like TJ Finley's going to be on like his 5th school.
5th, yeah.
Guy, like, you got to find something else to do at some point, right? So I don't love the unlimited transfers. I think that needs to be kind of adjusted.
Zach Calzada entered the transfer portal earlier today. I saw that name pop up. I don't even remember where he was, but he was at LSU, and then he was at A&M, then he was at Auburn, and then he's somewhere else, and now he's transferring again. And Finley went from LSU to Auburn to Texas State to Western Kentucky, and now he's going somewhere else. So that's just that's seeing the world through the eyes of college football, I guess. One guy that transferred once, now he's going to transfer to the NFL, is Travis Hunter. He's your Heisman Trophy winner. When you saw the votes tabulated, what was your first thought?
I was really intrigued. Honestly, my first thought was, who the hell voted for Kyle McCord to win the Heisman Trophy? There was a lot of votes there. I was like, what the hell? But I liked that this was close. I was on air while that was taking place, and I was taking calls leading up to it, and it felt like all of the public was very much on Ashton Genty. And then to see the amount of first place votes that Travis Hunter got, I don't have a vote, but if I did, it would have been for Travis Hunter. I think he is the right winner of this, but I do love when these things are legit conversations. As much fun as it is to have a situation like last year when Jaden won or when Joe Burrow won it all those years ago, where it is, a no doubter because someone is so good. I do like when there is a conversation around that. I think it builds the buzz of the award. And the Heisman Trophy, as far as I'm concerned, is the most prestigious trophy in all of sports, outside of championships, I would assume, but it's the most prestigious trophy in all of sports. So the fact that it was a legit conversation all the way up to the actual ceremony, I thought was really healthy for college football.
What's the future of Coach Prime in Boulder? Obviously, it helps when you got the Heisman Trophy winner and maybe a top 5 pick and your son at quarterback. Well, those 2 guys are going to be gone next year. Do you think Colorado continues to be a contender in the Big 12, or do you think that those 2 guys did a lot of heavy lifting?
I definitely think those 2 guys did a lot of heavy lifting, but now we're going to get to see what Deion is really made of as a college football coach. I think he stays in college. I don't think he's going to jump to the NFL. I don't think there are any good situations for him to jump to the NFL unless he wants to go continue to coach his son. But at a certain point, you got to go let your son live. Like, let him spread his wings. He's a good player, and he can have some real success in the NFL outside of Deion Sanders. I think he stays in college. It's now going to be able, all right, what is your program going to look like when you don't have the definitive best player in college football and one of the best quarterbacks in college football? Can you develop guys? We haven't really seen a lot of Colorado players really develop into superstars outside of those 2 guys who already kind of were superstars by the time they got there. So I'm very fascinated to see what it's going to look like when he actually has to start developing players. I think he can do it. It's just going to be a fun process to watch.
Last one here. Bill Belichick headed to Chapel Hill. Your reaction to that, and how long do you think he sticks around?
I think he stays there 2 years. This, it was stunning until I put thought into it. And Bill Belichick, ever since Tom Brady left, has been on this quest to prove that he's smarter than everybody else. And you know this, Hunt. I know this. When you get in our profession, you have a mentor that says you got to zig when everybody zags. And Bill Belichick has spent the last 5 years attempting to zig when everybody thinks that he should zag. He doesn't like the politics of the NFL, so he goes to college football. I was like, college football has way more politics in it than the NFL does, just based on some of the things that are going around at the biggest level. So I think it makes a lot of sense just based off of his personality type, it seems. I don't know what it's going to be like when he starts recruiting. I can't imagine Bill Belichick. Jim Harbaugh, I can imagine doing squats with high schoolers in Idaho. I cannot imagine Bill Belichick doing that. So we'll see.
We certainly will. Next week, we'll talk some college football playoff. Thanks for the time, Denton.
All right, appreciate it, man.
Denton Day, SiriusXM College Football Overtime with us every single Monday. Our Monday show is brought to you by Gulf Coast Office Products, GCOPnet.com, GCOPnet.com. All your printing, scanning, copying needs, it's Gulf Coast Office Products. Wherever you are in the state of Louisiana, they can absolutely help you out. Contact Trey Veal and our friends over there at Gulf Coast Office Products, GCOPnet.com. We'll close things out with a little Take It or Leave It coming up next on The Hunt Palmer Show.
The Hunt Palmer Show.
Highland Insurance Group, HighlandIG.com. Never know when that loss is coming. Never know when that hurricane's going to form. You never know when that car accident's going to happen. The hacker's going to get in there with that cyber attack. But you can know before it happens that you're taken care of as opposed to being reactionary. The worst thing in insurance, and trust me, I did it for 7 years, is when there's some issue and then a claim comes up and everybody's got to run and see if you're covered. Don't let that happen. You got to be proactive, and that's what the Highland Insurance Group can do. You should trust your insurance broker like you trust your attorney, like you trust your CPA. They should be a trusted part of your organization, and that's what the Highland Insurance Group is for. If you don't have that kind of relationship with your broker right now and you're a business owner, make that call. Or go see them online at HighlandIG.com. Employment practices, liability, crime, cyber, D&O, umbrella, all your property and casualty needs can be taken care of. They've got dozens of markets so they can place you in the right spot for your business. The Highland Insurance Group. Check them out online, HighlandIG.com, HighlandIG.com.
At Atmos Energy, our smart choice solutions help customers save energy and emissions with rebates up to $500 off high-efficiency natural gas appliances, smart thermostats, and weatherization upgrades. Together, we're fueling our energy future.
The best kept secret in town is out. Discover Tallulah at the Renaissance Hotel on Bluebonnet.
Jerry and Benny Payne began Central Plumbing Company out of their driveway in Tanglewood subdivision. 50 years later and 4 generations down the road, we continue to serve Baton Rouge and the surrounding areas for all of their plumbing needs. Residential, commercial, industrial, or hospitality, Central Plumbing is here 24/7, 365.
We want to thank our customers, family, and friends for 50 years of success.
And looking forward to 50 more.
Gulf Coast Office Products is a nationally recognized Savin office equipment dealer based right here in Louisiana. Over 100 employees strong, Gulf Coast has the boots on the ground to support all vertical markets from education, engineering, legal, and finance. With the latest in office technology from desktop to production segment units, Gulf Coast and Savin have the perfect fit for you. Call 225-756-2644. That's 756-2644 for Gulf Coast Office Products.
I've been doing business with Luba for 25 years. They're dependable, trustworthy. It's just the attention to detail with our clients.
Our folks have years and years of experience. They're highly trained professionals. But many companies have that asset. What I'd like to think makes Luba a bit different is that we use those talents in a way that truly is dedicated to serving the needs of the folks who depend on us.
Dylan Cruz here to tell you about Six Rings Baseball and Softball Camp. If you live on the North Shore and play ball, go to Six Rings Camps with former LSU assistant coach Dan Canaveri. His knowledge is second to none, and your child will improve and have fun doing it. Camps were held at Coquille Park and Six Rings Academy in Covington with 4 sessions over the summer. Full day and morning only sessions are available from ages 7 to 13. Go to sixringsbaseball.com or call 985.
This is the Hunt Palmer Show. Hopefully Hunt remembered to bring his laptop charger. Nah, there's no chance.
I did not bring my laptop charger. to the desk today. And,
Really, you didn't?
I have a dead laptop.
Oh, wow. Isn't that a crazy concept, Hunt? When you have a laptop and has a battery and the percentage goes down to 0, it dies.
Screen, just
yeah.
Nothing.
Crazy how that works, It really is. Like, when you have a charger, it charges the battery and it doesn't die.
It's up there.
It's a novel concept.
We'll, just, plug it back in when we finish up.
Yeah, it's really good.
Story. I'm hoping this afternoon I'm writing a Nick Anderson commitment story on a charged laptop.
Well,
That'd be nice.
you'll have to charge it if you want to do that. Otherwise, you will not be able to do that.
The doc charges it when I get up to the office, so we'll just get up there and get her plugged in.
That's good.
Looking forward to it. I hope Nick Anderson commits later today. That would be good. LSU's doing well in the transfer portal. I'm encouraged by the amount of talent that they've been able to pull in. I think that this latest add in Mansour Delone from Virginia Tech is a good one.
Maybe you can get an NIL deal with Mansour's on the Boulevard.
He maybe could. They got great gumbo over there.
They do. It's a great place.
Good spot. So it's not spelled the same.
No, it's different.
But you can do a radio spot and it sounds the same. You don't have to spell it. So
yeah, it's true.
There it is. So I guess I don't have anything on my laptop screen, but we can play Take It or Leave It if you want.
Yeah, you're not going to be able to read anything. You're not going to be able to. Sometimes Hunt adds a few Take It or Leave It. That will not be possible because his laptop is dead. So we'll just go ahead and start.
Great.
Take it or leave it.
Take it or leave it.
Today's hottest stories in sports, news, and sometimes even Hunt's life. The question is, will he take them or leave them?
Just take it.
All right. All right, first one here. Hunt will never learn from not bringing his laptop charger. Take it or leave it.
I don't have to learn.
I'll take it. I'll take it.
Let me answer.
I'll take it. I'll take it.
That's uncalled for. It's just excessive. Every once in a while, this thing hasn't died in months.
Yeah, maybe.
I think you have to go back to baseball season for the last time.
I don't know about that.
We'll see.
All right, next one here. Nicolas Cage and Christian Bale are set to star in a John Madden biopic next year.
Okay.
With Nicolas Cage playing John Madden and Christian Bale playing former Raiders owner Al Davis. You'll go see this. Take it or leave it.
Nicolas Cage is John Madden?
Yes.
I don't think that works.
Well, Nicolas Cage is an interesting guy. I think he can do almost anything in his mind. So.
John Madden was phenomenal in Little Giants.
He was. That was a great movie.
The
by the way.
annexation of Puerto Rico.
Great movie.
Heck of a call there. I'm probably not going to see it. I don't see very many movies. I watched Home Alone last night. It was great.
Well,
got me in the mood.
It's a good Christmas movie.
It's very good. I got a few more that I got to check off the list this year. But I'm probably not going to watch the John Madden Nicolas Cage movie.
No, you know what, Hunt? We're gonna get you to go see that movie, and you're gonna give us a full report on it. Give us a nice little throwback to the Hunt Palmer film reviews.
I did do those during COVID. Saw some good movies, saw some terrible movies. Just Dazed and Confused, awful. The Goonies, terrible. What's that movie where they're all in high school? McConaughey's in it. The girls stay the same.
That's Dazed and Confused.
That is Dazed and Confused? Okay, yeah, that was terrible. What was the other one I watched? Oh, The Big Lebowski, awful.
That's just a horrible take by you, Hunt.
It's
just
terrible.
a horrible
just
take.
Stoner humor. It's just awful.
All right, moving on. Norfolk State has reportedly interviewed Michael Vick to be its next head football coach. Vick is 44. He and actually, funnily enough, Norfolk State just fired head coach Dawson Odoms, who used to actually coach at Southern.
Southern's old coach.
Yeah, they weren't very good this year. But Vick as head coach in college football, take it or leave it.
I'll take it.
I'll take it.
Most talented quarterback of all time. Could I make that argument?
You could make the argument.
Speed and arm strength.
Certainly could make the argument.
And sometimes those guys really can't coach because you can't do the stuff that the players can't do the stuff that you were able to do. But yeah, I'm all for it. I think that's good. I think that's a trend that we've seen a lot. I think Deion Sanders kind of got it going. Eddie George just jumped on, and then Michael Vick. Yeah, I'm all for it.
All right, last one here. In the lead up to Rory McIlroy and Bryson DeChambeau's set of a Vegas showdown in the quote-unquote PGA versus Live match, Rory said on the range, "I'd like to get Bryson back for what he did to me at the U.S. Open." Bryson retorted, "Well, to be fair, you kind of did it to yourself." Bryson is right. Take it or leave it.
Oh, man. I got to take it. I said it that Monday when we came back that has to be defined as a choke. When you haven't missed a putt that short the entire year and you miss it in that spot, that's got to be a choke. But I did, just coincidentally, I don't know how this came up, but I was scrolling this weekend and I came on the U.S. Open broadcast that they were playing on Golf Channel or whatever, and it was right when Bryson was going to hit that fairway bunker shot on 18. That shot is so good.
Yeah.
It is tough to – I was pulling very hard against him, as you might imagine.
Yeah.
That shot was very, very good. So I can't say that Rory – it was all on Rory because Bryson made that ridiculous bunker shot that he knocked in there to 2-3 feet. But Rory choked. He can't miss those putts.
Can't miss them. All right, let's take it or leave it. You wouldn't know that because you don't have your laptop, but that is the last one.
And
so.
usually at the end of the show, I go back through the document.
You do
and I can tell you where.
How about this? I'll do it because you don't have your laptop.
I think I can. Let's see if I can get it right.
Okay,
we opened the show talking about LSU football in the portal.
Yes.
Then we talked about the Saints losing to the Commanders. Then we talked LSU hoops. Then at the end of the hour, we talked about Norvell giving $4.5 million back. Opened hour number 2. We talked about new targets for LSU in the transfer portal. Then we talked about random NFL stuff for like 10 minutes, and then we had Denton Day.
Wow, Hunt, that is impressive recall on your part there.
I'm pretty special brain here.
You are.
Got cooking every day 1 to 3. Y'all are just y'all are able to lock in on one of the great minds in radio history, or not. That's it for Monday edition of the Hunt Palmer Show. We're brought to you by Gulf Coast Office Products. Find them online, gcopnet.com. All your printing, scanning, copying needs, Gulf Coast Office Products. It's been fast and furious in the transfer portal for LSU, and we expect that to continue this afternoon. So I'll be all over that at louisianasports.net. If you missed any of the show that I just recapped there, you can find it wherever you find your podcast and, of course, on YouTube. That's it for us here on this Monday. Matt's about to drive you home on After Further Review. He'll have a lot of reacting to do to the Saints and to LSU in the transfer portal as well. Hope you have a safe and happy Monday. We're back tomorrow previewing LSU hoops and probably talking some more portal. It'll be a Tuesday edition at that point of the Hunt Palmer Show.
The Hunt Palmer Show.
Boudreaux's Electrical Services. Neil and Melissa have been rocking and rolling at Boudreaux's Electrical for 40 years down there in Napoleonville. Now Justin, their son, is kind of taking the reins. I can tell you this, Boudreaux's Electrical, this is why you ought to go check them out to get your Generac home standby generator. Every single generator that they sell comes with a 7 to 10 year warranty depending on the type of generator that you buy. All of them. They're all installed by full-time employees. And they've got more than 10 technicians that are available to come out and service those generators if there's an issue. And they'll know if there's an issue because they monitor your Generac home standby generator remotely 24 hours a day, 7 days a week. So if there's some sort of mechanical failure, whether the generator's supposed to come on or not, they'll know about it and they can help you out with it. Phone number's the same one they've had for 40 years. It's 985-397-1562, 985-397-1562, or in the 225 at 393-89. I give you the easy way every single day. Boudreaux's Electrical, Boudreaux'Electrical.com, Boudreaux'Electrical.com.
Looking for the ultimate game day experience? Come to the Queen Casino in Baton Rouge. Savor game day platters and snacks, plus drink specials at 1717 Kitchen and Cocktail. So come out for game day and let our team make you the MVP. The Queen Casino, where